All right, welcome back to another episode of Cameo with Nevin Webster. This is going to be the first podcast that I've recorded during, this time of COVID-19. And don't worry, we're keeping our distance. We're respecting social distancing the best we can, and it's my neighbor, anyways. So, not really like we're that far from each other, anyways. But I'm not really sure what to call him. I feel like if I call him friend, it'll go to his head. But his official title is Pastor Lyle. Is that
you can call me that. I mean, we could be Facebook friends, which isn't really a reality of friendship anyway.
Yeah, that's true. we are Facebook friends. I'm Facebook friends with a lot of people in this town. It's my way of kind of like playing Big Brother and focusing and seeing what Kamloops is talking about. It's my my creepy way of keeping tabs on this town.
There you go. I do the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, so you are a pastor. We've met when I moved in. Were you the ones who gave us chicken pot pies?
No, if I was giving you chicken pot pie, you'd probably be really sick right now.
Okay, you did give us a gift or something. Was that?
I'm not sure. My wife might have, but I usually don't think about those things. She's a lot better at that stuff than me.
Yeah, we got like 2 or 3 housewarming gifts when we moved on in, and we were like all like surprised. They're like, "Oh wow, this is this kind of neighborhood," and then it might have been actually maybe your neighbor.
Yeah, our neighborhood's pretty good with that kind of stuff. We'll take care of each other pretty well, so especially this end of the street anyway.
Yeah, we keep our location disclosed because we got people who don't like me here in this town, believe it or not.
Well, I'm sure I could find some for me as well, so don't worry, we're in good company.
How long have you been a pastor? Let's talk about that real quick.
Well, been pastor in Kamloops for probably just over 20 years. Youth pastor, a couple locations. Also used to work in street ministry in town, but just over 20 years.
What does street ministry mean?
Working with homeless people, low-income people.
The less glamorous side of God's
definitely
work.
Less glamorous. Yeah, which is honestly that, and working with doing youth ministry for a long time. Working with street people was interesting, but then also working with kids. I mean, you really have to be kind of a real person to work with those two groups because they can see through anything that might be a little bit fake. So,
yeah, street people have like a sixth sense about them.
Yeah, and in this city, actually, there's a lot of street people that, over 20 years ago when I did work at the local mission here, there's still some of the people that frequent there that I still see and know on a first-name basis today.
Yeah, I've gotten to know a few of them, give them half a joint here and there. Not that I'm smoking weed anymore. I'm not allowed to. That's a new development in my life, but
yeah.
Well,
I don't either. It's not exactly a great development in my life if I would have still been doing that. But yeah, I hear you.
So you've been ministering for 2 decades. What did you do beforehand? What was your first career or your career before getting into being a pastor?
Well, I did a lot of things, but most of my life, for the beginning, my life was all geared around hockey. Played hockey in. And lived in 6 different provinces, all the way from, of course, BC to Nova Scotia. Never been to Quebec, though. That's one that I never got to. So
Nova Scotia is probably my favorite province of all provinces.
Yeah, I really liked it there. I mean, it reminded me. I'm not a big city guy, but Vancouver. It reminded me of Vancouver because you could, because it's near the ocean, but you could get everywhere real easy. People real nice.
It's what BC thinks it is. The Maritimes are what BC pretends to be in terms of like how laid back and slow and friendly people are, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. Like for me, when I left BC, I got a rude awakening. I never realized just how good we had it. I really love it here. Out of all the places that I've lived, it's actually this area, Kamloops, it's close to where my original hometown was, But I really love it here. I mean, the weather, you can't beat it. If it's bad here, it's bad everywhere. So,
one of our earlier talks, you said you're a bit of a rebel in the pastoring world, and by that you meant you don't have a church location. What's the name of the church that you pastor right now, and how do you have a church without a location?
Well, I don't know if I'm a rebel, but
That was your word.
did I use that word?
That
Oh,
was
my
your word.
goodness.
That is like classic youth pastor.
Well, I don't think that everybody like the thing about the church world. Not everybody agrees with each other. That's the thing. And some of the things that I preach, some of the things I talk about, they aren't always just the mainstream church stuff. As for your second question, I mean, with the pandemic thing that's come up, for me, I do most of my stuff, or I do a lot of stuff online already, or I tried to transition that. So when this happened, of course, we don't meet together. We try to do things as much online as we can. And, for me, even when we had a building, I had an office that quickly turned into a storage room because my office was Starbucks or whatever local coffee shop whoever had the best coffee, which my opinion wasn't Starbucks. But
Starbucks also isn't local and also doesn't keep their money in the community.
You got it. And that to me is something that I do consider. So,
shout out Redbeard.
That's one of the places I really like to go.
Yeah. This podcast was basically born out of Redbeard.
Oh, really?
A lot of it, yeah.
Yeah, the original owners of Redbeard, I was pretty good friends with. They've gone through a couple different changes, but not only that, I like their coffee. So,
well, Mitch Forgey's still around.
Yeah, I like him. Good guy.
The actual Redbeard character, he's on the island somewhere.
Yeah, that was Nate.
Nate, yes, Nate. Yeah, that's his name. Yep. There you go.
Great guy.
It's been a while since I've caught up with Nate or Mitch.
Well, Nate and his wife Danny I actually knew fairly well. Good people. Kind of sad to see them go, but Redbeard's still alive and kicking and still serving good coffee. Yeah.
Mustache and Go was an interesting experiment.
Yeah.
It's from my understanding, just to fill people in, it's turning into like a live venue of sorts. Though I don't have a lot of details on what that's going to be, and or this Mischief Night Market, which is obviously been put on hold for the time being. Someone was working on creating like a kind of like that Richmond Night Market experience, but more artisan.
Yeah, I had heard some bits and pieces of that, but I'd also heard with the new building project right next to them that there was going to be some kind of connection, but I don't know how good my information was on that. So
there's lots of little rumors, and I haven't heard anything in a long time. But so you grew up playing hockey. What's your NHL team? Which team do you cheer for?
Anybody that's playing the Canucks.
That's a good start.
My dad has been a lifelong Canuck fan since day one. And
so animosity with your dad there?
No, it's just that I've watched him quit watching hockey forever, at least 3 times because of that team. So, it's been a thorn in his side for a long time. And in all honesty, it's probably not as bad as it used to be. I don't mind the team they have this year, but I don't really have a team. When I used to have a team, I had my heart broken, and then that was enough for me to not have a team anymore. I think is probably what happened.
Which team broke your heart?
I was a Washington Capitals fan back in the early '90s, but I followed a player. I had a favorite player, and wherever he played, I cheered for him.
Okay.
So.
I'm always curious how people like a team, whatever it be. Like there's always a story. Like for me, the Flames, because I grew up. My aunt and uncle had season tickets to the Flames.
Yeah.
So, that was kind of my first introduction to hockey was, getting to, go to their nosebleed section. But season tickets, hey, it's cool. It was interesting.
Oh, yeah.
I think sports are fascinating in the sense that like I'm learning sports and like trying to understand how everyone has this like affinity for whatever team that they cheer for, and when that draw is. Do you cheer for any other sports?
Oh yeah, I mean I'm a football fan. I'm a baseball fan. Probably my resurgence for the love of baseball has actually probably been something over the past few years. I loved it as a kid, but just lately, like my favorite team was always the Dodgers, and the past couple of years, I just for some reason really wanted to get back into watching that, and I love watching baseball. Baseball
is, I think, in itself like in a resurgence.
Yeah.
As well. And to be honest, it's a like when I was in the hospital past couple of weeks ago, like I watched a lot of the 93 World Series.
Oh yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah.
So a lot of Blue Jays, and I come from Cambridge, Ontario, so just an hour away from Toronto, and I can actually remember seeing just like at some point on social media, just my friend circle from back home just falling in love with baseball all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And
well, it was like that with the Raptors last year. I mean, I'm not a basketball fan per se, but watching their run and I think for us as a nation, we get caught up in that, and you become part of the team.
Yeah, the bandwagoning of things.
Yeah,
I don't like the Raptors because of Drake personally.
Yeah, well, there you go.
But I've chosen the Heat, the Miami Heat. It's got that Kamloops connection with Kelly Olynyk.
Yeah.
Miami, man, it was just warm and nice, and about as far away from Drake as I can get.
There you go.
But what's something about Lyle that people tend to misunderstand or just get misrepresented out in the community?
Oh man, again, like for my life, is always geared towards God, towards church, being a pastor. And, I think that in that line of work, there's a lot of misconceptions, and they aren't always brought upon, aren't always from you, but just misconceptions because people have because of different religion. In my case, Christianity. Not everybody's a carbon copy of each other. And as I mentioned earlier, like for me, I'm more interested in truth and seeing lives changed, and that started with me. I mean, I didn't grow up in the church. I had my life was spinning out of control, and for me, I definitely attribute it to God to see my life change. So, when I see some of the religiosity that goes on, some of the traditions and some of these things that have no power in them, it bothers me, to be honest. And I think that there is a lot of places where people go on a Sunday that there's no power within it. And when there's no power in what you call church, then you're kind of wasting your time, in my opinion.
I get that. I think it's fascinating to see like the rise of just content creation right now.
Yeah.
And how people are talking about content creation and then just being like, oh yeah, this is just what the church has done for how many years, just disseminating some sort of story.
Yeah.
To you could break down the Bible very, very simply to be like, love yourself first before you can start loving each other.
Mm-hmm.
And God uses, church uses the way of like, God loves you and blah, 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 blah. Now you love yourself and now you can love others, right? Like,
yeah.
But you can see that parallel in all these speakers and all of these business gurus or whatever, be doing their own variation of it, not to simplify your I guess your religion down to.
I understand what you mean. Yeah.
It's interesting how it's all happening, and it's interesting how accessible it is now, right? Church really was just like the very first educational vessel.
Well, yeah, and in fact, in a lot of if we were able to go back in time, you find out that most of the information in town and everything, I mean, the churches used to be built in the center of town, and that was kind of the central point for everybody. But obviously our society has changed so dramatically that that's not the case. But as far as the content creation, I agree. And, right now, one of the things that I find absolutely fascinating and disappointing in some ways as well is, I just talked about it today on my YouTube channel. The church is trying to figure out how to adjust in this pandemic. And really, one of the problems that I see is the church is still trying to do the same thing. And they're having a hard time adjusting. They're trying to have a church service online with all the bells and whistles and all the special lighting and trying to put on this big
rock
show.
Star.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to put on a show.
It's like Acquire the Fire. I remember those days.
Yeah, and really, this has never been about a show. What I do is not a show. If I'm doing this right, it should help people and it should help transform lives. But we're trying to do it through man-made means and again through methods that really don't work.
It's funny though how it's basically getting like testing the whole church is not a place.
Exactly.
Church is not a building, and now all these places, they're scrambling.
Yeah, they are.
They're scrambling to try and figure out what to do and
Well,
how
let me
to
tell you the
approach it.
biggest one they're scrambling about. That actually I got a lot of peace about is they're scrambling how they're gonna get money to keep their lifestyles.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, I watched a guy the other day that, believe it or not, I actually respected years ago. I was young and foolish, but stands up in front of a couple people and tells them that God told him that he's supposed to get $300 million for his ministry this year, and he's talking to 3 people telling him that, and I'm going, buddy, I mean, if this is all still about money, and that's where one of the problems I have with the way a lot of this stuff's done, is church was never supposed to be about money.
Yeah.
You know, it's about helping people, and yeah, it takes money to do that, but I think that if we were to check the financial records of a lot of places, we might find out that the money's not being used properly in a lot of places, and that to me is a pet peeve that I struggle with.
I struggle with the concept of money in general right now, because I feel like money itself could really just disappear.
Yep.
Like, we're at the point where, yeah, it's a fiat currency. It's not really made anything, but we have even the Pope saying, oh, yeah, there should be a universal basic income. That's just, in my opinion, trying to reaffirm the current monetary system to keep their current lifestyles, because we could see the current banking system collapse should enough of us gather together and just be like, no, we're not paying our mortgage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a pretty deep topic, but I think that whether it's this current situation we're in or one that will come closely behind it, there will be monetary changes with things. And you know, when we look at even how our North American lifestyle and how extravagant it is compared to a lot of places, I mean, we've had it pretty good for a long time.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a lot of waste. A lot of things that you know, when we have stuff like this happen in the world, it does bring some things into perspective that maybe we have considered not to be as important that we realize are. You know, even like what we're doing right now, being able to talk, being able to you know, there's a lot of people that are stuck in their houses that are because of social distancing and all those things. You know, pandemics like this, they bring things into perspective, and that's why in my line of work, there's a lot of things, and the money pull is one of the things that I you know, we really need to reevaluate, because this is about, I look at this when I look at what I do, it's about God and about people. You know, love God, love people. All the law and the commandments hang on those 2 things, Bible says. So, you know, if it's just about getting money so that I can live comfortable or telling you how to do that, I think we miss the mark.
Yeah. I see this as like the great leveler.
Yep.
Of our time. And,
I agree.
You know, if you're trying to sustain your current lifestyle practice, that means you're scared of being leveled to, you know, to like me, where I'm not working right now.
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
And, you know, that's scary for a lot of people to not work. And some of these big guys with their 3 jumbo jets,
Yeah.
you know, they've created this business of making themselves into demigods.
Yeah, I think that can be the case and has been the case for many, yeah.
But yeah, what's something that you're passionate about, Lyle, outside of God and church and whatever be?
Well, I mean, again, most of my stuff, the stuff that I do about life, my purpose in life, you know, God's my first purpose, but from there, you know, helping people. You know, I got off the phone. A girl that I used to know back from school. She watches my from when I was in school, which is a long time ago, by the way. You know, she watches my YouTube channel, and just got a hold of her. She's in the front lines, a healthcare worker in a city that's close to here, and you know, she's really struggling. She's struggling because you know she didn't grow up in the church. She's, in fact, the only connection she's had with God has been within the past few months watching my YouTube channel.
That's interesting.
And she's talking about, you know, I'm going through these issues. I've got some life issues, but I've got some personal issues. Plus, I'm on the front line. I'm scared. And, you know, so everything really in my life is geared towards helping people like that. You know, I got to, you know, get some other people that, I find that, yeah, I do have a lot of people that are regular churchgoers, but I got a lot of people that they've never darkened the doors of a church. That another guy in Prince George, he calls me every once in a while, and he's got questions, and he called me the other night. He says, "I got a dumb question for you about Jesus," and I'm just like, man, there is no dumb questions. I was in the same place at one point. So a lot of these people, for me, my passion is a lot of it is geared towards being able to help people. And through some of the means you're talking about, like looking at social media, me having to adjust a lot of my life around that, it enables me to continue to do that in a lot of various ways that maybe a lot of people in my position haven't even thought about.
Yeah.
Other than a Sunday.
You're a fairly personal guy, I admit. You don't come off as too pastory, which I think is a compliment in a way. Somehow.
I'll take it as one.
What did you have to go to a pastor school?
I did most of my training online and in the trenches while things were happening.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You went to like fullsail.com or whatever
No, you can get Bible school courses online. I got ordained at the local church I was at one point and licensed through another agency. And, even that, there's a lot of confusion as to what it takes to be a pastor. There's a lot of different organizations that have different requirements, but most of my schooling was through there. And not only that, setting myself onto other people that have gone on before me that have learned and just being teachable.
Cool.
That's probably the best training I got, in my opinion.
Where can people find your YouTube channel?
I'm on. You can look at for Pastor Lyle Daily Renewal. That's probably the easiest way to find me online. I was doing 5 days a week, but I've cut that back because I'm actually helping people physically in a lot of different ways, and with a lot of the adjustments. But I do probably about three sessions a week. I try to keep it around 15 minutes, and basically it's answering people's questions about God and encouraging the best I can, and dealing with some of the issues that maybe aren't dealt with a lot of times on a Sunday in a regular church service.
So Pastor Lyle Daily Renewal on YouTube.
That's correct.
Cool. Well, is there anything that you'd like to chat about before we wrap things up at this point?
No, it's all good. We'll probably have more conversations considering we live so close together.
Yeah, your yard is literally connected to a gate of my yard, which is an odd.
Yeah, walked right into your yard.
Yeah, it's an odd little development there, but that's cool. All right, well, thank you for tuning on in. If you're new, consider subscribing. Basically, what Cameo is just me chatting with different community members in Kamloops, getting to know people offline. There's a lot of animosity amongst people online, and I just try to strip that back by getting in front of them, having a conversation, sharing coffee. This time he brought his own coffee, and I'm out of coffee, but
you should have told me, man. I'd brought you one.
It's okay. I can make more. But Kicking Horse coffee is what I drink. What do you drink?
I actually drink a lot of different coffee, but there's a place out of Portland.
You're a snob.
Well, actually, it's really good coffee, though. And I'm trying to think of. I can't even think of the name of it. It's not. It's not Stonehenge, but something like that.
Okay.
I'll have to get it for next time we talk.
All right. Well, yeah. Please consider subscribing, and that's it. That's all. Thank you for tuning on in.
Sounds good.